Let's talk about Virtual World. One of my favorite decks. It has some pretty good extra deck monsters to build a pure strategy. However, the way most people play it is basically as a toolbox deck. It's going to powerful rank 3 and rank 6 monsters along with some Synchro 6 and Synchro 12 monsters to set up unbreakable boards or swinging for OTKs. There's loads of different ways you can go about playing this with different engines you can add, so let's talk about some of them today. Now of course, it would be near impossible to play all of these engines in the one deck, and also depending on which engine you are playing, then your main deck ratios will change. But let's just look at a few of the different things that this deck is capable of doing to get a better understanding of what exactly this deck is capable of. Let's start with tech. The Armored XYZ package. Armored XYZ is the latest package that I've been trying out with this deck, and I have to say I'm very impressed. It only takes up 3 extra deck slots and 1 main deck slot, so not an overall big commitment. It gives you a draw, an interruption, and a massive beat stick, so here's how it works. Basically, you want 2 level 3 monsters on the field so that you're able to XYZ summon into your Armor Torpedo, who needs just 2 level 3 monsters in order to go into him. You can activate Torpedo, you can detach the 2 materials in order to get yourself a draw, so you're able to draw a card off of that. Then what you're able to do from there is you're able to rank up your Torpedo into an Armor Fortress. Then you can activate that Armor Fortress in order to detach a material, which will be the Torpedo, in order to search for an Armored XYZ card. So we are going to search for Full Armored XYZ. Then from here, you're able to set that Full Armored XYZ to the back row, and you're able to pass turn onto your opponent. Then anytime during your opponent's turn, what you're able to do is you're able to activate Full Armored XYZ. That is going to allow you to rank up your Armor Fortress into the likes of Full Armored Dark Knight Lancer, which is very good in order for you to get a very powerful monster right there and right then. But what you're also able to do is, since this is a trap card in the graveyard, you're able to use its graveyard effect also, where you're able to banish it from the graveyard and target one of your XYZ monsters in the grave and equip it to an XYZ monster that you have on the field. So you're able to equip your Full Armored Dark Knight Lancer with your XYZ Armor Torpedo that you have in the graveyard. Not only is this great benefit that you're getting from Armor Torpedo, because if he is used as an equip to a monster, then if the equipped monster battles until the end of the damage step, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects, and also negate the effects of all face-up monsters they control. And also, if the equipped monster is an XYZ monster, which it is, then that monster cannot be targeted with card effects, which is really great way for us to protect our Full Armor Dark Knight Lancer. But that's not all that's going to happen here, because Dark Knight Lancer is faced on the field and a monster was equipped to it. He has the effect that once per turn, if an equipped card becomes equipped to a monster, except during the damage step, you can attach one monster that your opponent controls to this card's material. So it's a good way for us to snatch up one of our opponent's monsters to equip it onto Dark Knight Lancer himself, which will also increase the attack of Full Armored Dark Knight Lancer too. So obviously you can see why this is a very good package. It's fairly generic, and any deck that's able to go into rank 3s can take advantage of it. So it fits in really nicely here. I avoided this package for so long, and I don't really know why. I think maybe it was because I was getting very unlucky with it in my Umi deck. But I actually do think that in Virtual World it is very consistent. So I definitely think that is well worth the run. The Crimson Dragon package. Crimson Dragon is great in a lot of Synchro decks, especially this one considering how easy we're able to go into Synchro 12 monsters. We actually have a 2.5 card combo with Virtual World that shows how the package works. It basically allows you to cheat out some of the harder to summon Synchro 12 monsters that require certain materials in order to bring it out. The combo is very simple and goes like this. You need 1 copy of Kowloon, 1 copy of Lulu, and then the other card is going to be a discard. We're going to use talents for that right now. We're going to activate Kowloon, use Kowloon's effect. We are going to get a copy of Chucha face up on the field. So we have a target for our Lulu. We're going to activate Lulu, we are going to target the Chucha, we are going to dump a spell Qinglong to the graveyard in order to special summon Lulu, and then resolve Lulu. We're going to add the Lily to the hand. We're then going to activate the Lily, we are going to target the Lulu, we are going to dump a copy of Chucha, special summon the Lily, and then dump another Qinglong. Then from here what we're going to do is we are going to banish a copy of Chucha that's in the graveyard in order to target Lulu and increase its level by 3, meaning that we have 2 level 6 monsters on the field, 1 being a tuner, so we are able to sync these 2 off in order to go for our copy of Sigma, and you're better off putting them in the extra monster zone just because you want to get that little bit of protection. Then what we're going to do is from the graveyard we're going to banish a copy of Qinglong in order to add a Virtual World monster. We are going to add the Lao Lao, and then we have to discard a card, so this is where the 0.5 comes in. We're going to discard that talents. We're going to activate the Lao Lao, we're going to target the Chucha, we are going to dump another Quinglong because why not, we want that grave advantage in order to special summon the Lao Lao, and then we can use Lao Lao's effect in order to special summon out that Lily, giving us yet again 2 level 6 monsters on the field, one being a tuner, so we are able to sync these two off in order to go for our Crimson Dragon. Now there's a lot of powerful monsters you can go for with Crimson Dragon, but I personally prefer Cosmic Blazer Dragon. So I'll use Crimson Dragon's effect, we are going to target the Sigma, we are going to shuffle back in that Crimson Dragon in order to bring out the Cosmic Blazer Dragon. So you can see how it's very easy to go and take full advantage of the Crimson Dragon package in Virtual World, because off of 2.5 cards we are able to get Sigma on the field, Blazer Dragon, and Chucha, which is also live right now. So yeah, it's obvious that the main monster we bring out with this combo is Cosmic Blazer Dragon, but there are tons of other options that work well here too, including the likes of Red Supernova Dragon, Centurion Legatia, Shooting Quasar Dragon, Cosmic Quasar Dragon, and so on and so forth. The Ultimaya Tzolkin package. This next package is pretty cool, but I have to say it is just a little bit dated now at this point. The Crimson Dragon package is just way better, so you're definitely going to be playing Crimson Dragon over this package, but I do want to still show this package off, just because it's a little bit important for what the next package I'm going to show you is. But let me just explain it right here. So what you need for this is a card that you're able to set in your hand, and you're going to need 2 level 6 monsters on the field, one being a tuner. They both need to be level 6 or higher and the same level in order for you to sync off into your Tzolkin, because he can only be brought out by sending 2 level 5 or higher monsters of the same level to the graveyard, one being a tuner. So most of the time you're going to be using your Lao Lao and your Lily in order to go into this. But as you guys already know from the last combo, Chucha is able to level manipulate. So by whatever means you're able to go into Tzolkin a lot of different ways in this deck. But you still need to have a card in your hand that you're able to set. I'm just going to be using Talons as an example, because when Tzolkin's on the field, what you're able to do is you are able to set that card, and then you're going to trigger Tzolkin's effect to special summon a Power Tool monster or a level 7 or 8 Synchro Dragon monster from your extra deck, which I would probably argue the best level 8 Synchro monster that we can get off of this effect will be Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. There are obviously a lot of other options you can go into. You can do Stardust if you really want to, but I think Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon is the one to go for with this, just because it's nice to have a powerful monster in the gate that's also a big beat stick also. So he's the person that I would be running if I still ran this package, which in all honesty I just don't. It's obviously a nice package if you're capable of making one Synchro 12 and you have a card to set, of course, but for me I think we've just power crept so far beyond this point that if all I had are 2 level 6 monsters on the field, I would probably just end up going for Lars instead, because he can negate any card on the field, not just monster effects, which is kind of arguably better. But also just a little bit of theory I think is important to point out here is that when you are setting a card to get Tzolkin's effect, try setting a normal spell that you can flip up the same turn to utilize your hand a little bit. Setting a card like Talent is good because if your opponent uses a card like Veiler or something on your Tzolkin, then you can activate a talent and play on, whereas you can't flip up a quick play spell the turn you set it, such as the likes of E-Tele, which we also run in this deck. The Dragoon package. I left this package for last because although Dragoon is a great card, this can be absolute hell in order to set it up. You're basically using all of your resources to go into Dragoon, who, don't get me wrong, is a great card, but he's not worth all of this. But it's still fun and interesting, so maybe if you see it working here, it might inspire you to put it in another deck that's able to do it a little bit more consistently. This would pretty much be only for the TCG though, because I will say, if you're playing this deck in Match Duel and want to have a little Dragoon engine, you're definitely better off just running Anaconda with Red Eyes Fusion and your fusion materials. But here's how we get Dragoon out in the TCG. So obviously this is a lot right here. You need 4 monsters on the field, 2 level 3s, one being a tuner, and 2 level 6s, one being a tuner also. Most likely monsters are the ones I have on the field here. So similar to what I already showed you, you're going to use your Lily and your Lao Lao in order to go for your Tzolkin. Then what you're going to do from here is you are going to set a card, and that is going to trigger your Tzolkin in order to special summon out your level 8 monster, which will be the Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. Then you're going to sync 6 using your Lulu and your Nanyan in order to go for a copy of Muddy Mud Dragon. Muddy Mud Dragon reads that this card can be used as a substitute for any one fusion monster whose name is specifically listed on the fusion monster card, but the other fusion material must be correct. But he also has the effect that during the main phase, if you control this Synchro Summon card, you can fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters you control as fusion material. So obviously Dragoon lists Dark Magician specifically, but the other card that he needs is a Dragon Effect monster. So what you're going to do during the main phase, you're going to activate Muddy Mud Dragon's effect. You're going to fuse itself as Dark Magician and your ultimate Tzolkin in order to bring out your Dragoon. And this is how Virtual World is able to have two very powerful boss monsters on the field, but as you've already seen, you need 4 monsters and a set card in order to go into it. So you really need to go through it in your head on whether or not this is worth it. Yeah, obviously this is a lot, and if it gets interrupted then you practically have a bunch of useless monsters on the field. But I still figure it's a nice thing for you guys to know if you ever maybe want to take advantage of the package in another deck. Because going through the motions, if you get as far as Muddy Mud Dragon and activate the effect, I'm sure your opponent is curious what you're going to go into and might let you do it. But if they throw caution to the wind, you're definitely getting interrupted before you even get Dragoon out on the field. Let's just move on to some theory now. And I want to primarily talk about draw power. The deck does require you to discard quite a bit, so you really do need to take draw staples into consideration when playing. Prosperity and Upstart are not great in this deck because with those cards, you only essentially break even on hand advantage, so you need to be taking some of the draw 2 cards into contention here to actually get some +1s. Triple Tactics Talent is an obvious choice. Virtual World is a combo deck at the end of the day, so not only is talent important to make sure that we can bounce back from being interrupted, but also it provides good draw power for all the discarding that we do too. Pod Desires is what I run in my build because with this deck and its other variations, they tend to run 3 copies each of almost every card. So the banish 10 doesn't tend to be a problem all that much, unless of course you banish your playsets, but when isn't that an issue? But thinking in the same vein, I would also like to say that Pot of Extravagance is not a good card for this deck. Just because this is a toolbox deck, you only really run 1 copy of each card that is in your extra deck, and having no control over what is banished is not a thing that we want to risk here. So Talent and Desires are good, but the likes of Prosperity, Upstart, and Extravagance are not great options. Let's talk Floodgates. The main Floodgate that you set up here is Shen Shen. When he is faced on the field, then any cards sent from the field to the graveyard is banished instead, and that applies for both ourselves and our opponent. The reason why it serves us well is because it means that our Chucha will be live for the majority of the game, while still being an issue for your opponent. Shen Shen is such a powerhouse that he is the only Virtual World extra deck monster that always makes the cut in every build that you see. He's the only one that I run in my build. But what is also really powerful about him is that if he is in your graveyard, you can banish 2 monsters with different types and attributes from each other in your graveyard and bring them back out. And you don't even need to just banish virtual monsters for this, although it does help Chucha. You can actually banish some of your hand traps that you will never utilize again to bring him back out. Other Floodgates that can be good in this deck is a limited anti-spell fragrance. Considering that we don't rely too heavily on spell cards actively on the field in this deck, anti-spell can definitely mess up your opponent more than yourself. And also, there can be only one. Also is a card that, although is limited, you can play around with a lot, but only really when we have an established board, because we can struggle under it too, if not played properly. If we were to compare the strengths and the weaknesses of this deck, then I would definitely say that the strengths outweigh the weaknesses every time, because the strengths include the versatility that you can play with this deck. You are open to so many different engines to add to your toolbox for some really great end boards filled with negates and floodgates, which is the obvious way to win. But also, you can run multiple copies of pretty much all of your virtual world monsters, so obviously the deck does have a lot of great consistency to it as well, which adds to it the advantage. And finally, Virtual World kind of faded into obscurity a little bit lately, so your opponent might not know what to expect from you if they're inexperienced, which can really catch them off guard. So they do have a little bit of a mystery factor, which can be a whole lot of advantage. It's not all great though. Definitely the downsides are obviously the amount of times you discard cards can really affect your hand advantage and can leave you starved for resources, especially if you are unsure how to utilize your plays. Which brings me to the next point, that this deck is quite hard to learn. There are so many different directions that you can take this deck that it can be overwhelming to know where exactly to go. But if you want to check out a good profile to give you the general structure on how to build this deck, then definitely check out the previous video where I go through my own personal Virtual World deck, and you can see a good skeleton of a deck that you can customize yourself from there. If you're looking to build this deck in real life, then definitely be sure to use the affiliate links down in the description below. By using those affiliate links, you help directly support the channel to help myself and Sean to keep bringing you guys these videos. Another way you can help support the channel is if you can consider becoming a channel member. We want to give a big shout out to our members, Amira Cumbert, Johnny, RPSNOB, and John Cram. We really appreciate the support because it does go a long way. For everyone else, if you could just subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment, it all really helps us out in the long run. But until next time, we'll see you then.